Hello, good morning. Today is Friday, 14th of November 2025, and this is papertrail.com, a daily streaming all about governance, risk, and compliance in the UK for the SMEs and mid-market firms. And last week, we spoke about supplier due diligence, sanction screening, and keeping evidence audit ready year round from a risk perspective. And this week we are wrapping up. We reviewed directors' boards and company compliance risks, as well as some of the potential consequences for individuals and companies. And today's topic is naming, shaming, and fines, and what are the hidden costs of the admin failures, if you may. Don't worry about the acronyms, as there are many in governance, risk, and compliance, but I'm going to explain them as we go along. And as a disclaimer, this is not a complete guide, but I focus in reviewing three main problems, right? So problem number one is HMRC can impose penalties up to 200% of arrears for the national minimum wages breaches and name firms publicly. So it's a big problem here. Number two, if a company's house doubles late filing penalties for repeat offenses and can prosecute directors, you may say, well, we don't have that problem, but it's a potential problem, as I mentioned. And number three is the Environment Agency applies civil penalties and unlimited fines for serious harm. Right. So let me illustrate what it means. It means that actually there are breaches all the time, and these aren't paper cuts. Right? I don't know if you remember that phrase. Actually, it's a death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's not nice, but these are slow leaks. There's little things that happen every day, now, here, and there again, and ignoring them, and your credibility drains away very quickly. And you build your reputation throughout the years, your personal brand and your company brand, and this could be a very, very massive hit because it's named, as I mentioned earlier. So here are 3 points to consider to solve these problems. Number one is set a digital reminders for filings, wages, and environmental reports, because prevention always is cheaper than cleanup. And always, we mentioned already since the last 2 weeks about cadence or having an automated calendar where you have a monthly, quarterly, every 6 months, every year. It depends on the risk profiles of the reminders of what you had to be done and by whom and when. And number two, to prevent or to solve this problem is to match company house and HMRC calendars aligned with the audit and the payroll cycles. And again, we are going back to the cadences. So the best way to prevent issues is to have that already organized in the calendar. And here's a big pitfall, a pitfall to avoid, which is a solution number three, is underestimating reputational damage. So one naming notice can cost you contracts, can cost you people leaving the company, can cost you struggle to hire good talent because they already, particularly today with the social media that is so quick to blame and shame people very quickly. So you had to be careful. And this reminds me a phrase of Richard Buskirk, the former head of the USC Enterprise Entrepreneur Program in the US. He educated future executives with his motto. And you will say it's funny, but it's real. Credibility is like virginity. You only lose it once. So in terms of this pitfall, reputational damage, you have to be very careful. I already mentioned, I said, you build a career, you build your personal brand, you can lose everything materially, but your credibility is always there, particularly now in this era where everything can be found online. So as you can see, there are layers and layers of complexity that are beyond just the framework, spreadsheets, forms, and submissions online, particularly for SMEs and mid-market companies, where there are no dedicated teams, officials, or personnel within the company to run these compliance requirements. And bear in mind that we are talking about one here or two, environmental and national wages, minimum national wages. But there are other 16 that are required of any UK company. And we mentioned health and safety and fire safety and DVCA for fleet management, GDPR, cyber essentials, anti-bribery, crime laws, competition and marketing laws that we mentioned yesterday. So no wonder 73% of the UK companies outsource and hire consultants, advisors, or delegate to contractors in the UK. And one thing that actually people oversee, and again, they are act on your behalf based on your instruction, which is your accounting firm or your accountants or bookkeepers and your lawyers. And when you talk about reputational damage, they are doing an absolutely fantastic job in their expertise. But at the end, as I mentioned yesterday with the competition laws, the ultimate responsible is yourself, as a director of the company, as a board member, or as a managing any of the requirements of the responsibilities on the company. So what to do about this? As I always mention, you and your company should have a compliance baseline, or at least a baseline in mind, so you can hire on your own terms. And here are a few pointers to practical steps to look when you are looking into contractors or suppliers, advisors, and consultants. Number one is what the outcomes are provided. Can they provide tracks, filings, for payment and environmental deadlines all in one calendar? And we are talking about particularly here in the case of minimum national wages and environmental requirements. How they differentiate to the others? Do they unify evidence trail across HR, finance, and operations? So you see, here's a few things actually I want to highlight. HR, finance, and operations, they have overlaps with these things like national wages and environmental. Operation, particularly because you have certain reports to do in terms of emissions, etc., etc. And how, this is number three, how they reduce your risk. Can they automate alerts and regulatory templates, keeping records on time? And we always mention here, you have the requirements, you have the controls, and you have the evidence. Evidence is the only defensible position that you have. So you must be owner of that evidence. And cadence in calendars, reminders, filings, etc., etc. So one action you can take today, just to test this, is run a 10-minute check today. Confirm last filing date and national minimum wages audit log. Are they current? If they are not, remember, requirement, control, and evidence. You have to look into this and just start to repair or amend these things as far as possible, because you never know when the next audit is coming, when the next report is required, and the ultimate responsible is yourself. But there is a faster, more reliable, and easier way to do that, is with Papertrail, our software. You get your company's GDPR, cyber essentials, HR compliance, Ministry of Justice, bribery acts, economic crime laws, competition and marketing authority, HMRC guidance, all your compliance plus all the other 16 frameworks with include risk analysis and ISO standards requirements all in one place, with the reusable suppliers dossier mapped to the Information Commissioner's officers, the National Cyber Security Center, and the Office of Financial Sanctions Implementations, all ready to demonstrate risk and evidence. Remember, you have the requirement, you have the controls, and then you have the evidence. And all is based on your company profile. So it's specifically tailored for you. Why this is good? Because it's perfect for UK SMEs and mid-market companies, because you use the same control library for health and safety, GDPR, DVCA, cyber essentials, etc. So there's no double entry. Remember that we mentioned to you today, the same data with different language to different reports and filings. You don't have to do that double entry. That reduces the overlap and duplication by 60% and your costs by 80%. It's all in one place. It's a continuous gap analysis. So the system is constantly checking what is missing, what is the gap, and how to fix them. You have a clear view of what is done and also what is missing. and who owns that fix, who is the person that had to do that fix before any assurance inspection reports or audits hits you. So you can do it only once. You read your company profile, all the frameworks that are related to your company, and you can do it properly right there and move on to the things that are more interesting to you, like growing your company and being more profitable. And being more profitable also comes with the reduction of these costs and reducing the overlap, because the people time is cost for your organization. So if they stop doing duplicated work and they focus that time in doing more productivity work, then also makes you more profitable and helps you to grow the company. So join the waitlist, papertrail.com, and stay tuned, because as we mentioned, this week we review directors, boards, and company compliance risk, and next week we'll review risk treatments. So I mentioned them so you have something to think about the weekend: transference, mitigation, acceptance, avoidance, and the one that all legal teams talk, contracts. And we spoke yesterday about contracts, clauses to protect your firm and yourself according to the Competition Market Authority principles. So the contracts are very important in terms of risk treatments. So have a great weekend. See you on Monday, and remember to join the waitlist now, papertrail.com. Thank you.